Arthur Schopenhauer did not achieve fame and recognition in life with his masterpiece of philosophy, The World as Will and Representation. In fact, the work was mostly ignored in intellectual Europe at the time. However, Schopenhauer kept writing and publishing essays, and finally, some 40 years after the release of his philosophical magnum opus, one such collection of essays brought him the fame he so desired. The success of these essays then sparked interest in his main philosophy, and so started Schopenhauer's ascent as one of the household names in philosophy. Today, we take a look at one such essay. It's simply titled On Noise, and it is one of the greatest examples in philosophy and literature in general of grumpiness. The original text is about 1,300 words long, all dedicated to Schopenhauer's biggest pet peeve, noise, noise, noise. If you want to read the entire essay yourself, it's only about 3 pages long. There is a download link in the description. For now, let's jump into this appreciation video for Schopenhauer's On Noise. Noise, according to Schopenhauer, kills thought. If a big diamond is cut up into pieces, it immediately loses its value as a whole. Or, if an army is scattered or divided into small bodies, it loses all its power. And in the same way, a great intellect has no more power than an ordinary one as soon as it is interrupted, disturbed, distracted, or diverted. For its superiority entails that it concentrates all its strength on one point and object, just as a concave mirror concentrates all the rays of light thrown upon it. Noisy interruption prevents this concentration. Schopenhauer lists examples of great thinkers who have, in their biographies or utterances, also shared this irritation at noise. Immanuel Kant and Johann Wolfgang von Goethe are just 2 of the examples Schopenhauer mentions. In fact, if you're not bothered by noise, Schopenhauer will not hesitate to call you stupid. Certainly, there are people, nay, very many, who will smile at this because they are not sensitive to noise. It is precisely these people, however, who are not sensitive to argument, thought, poetry, or art, in short, to any kind of intellectual impression. The main target of Schopenhauer's scorn is one specific kind of noise, the cracking of the whip. Of course, this kind of noise was very common in 19th century Germany, where horse carts were the main mode of transportation. The sharp sound of the whip destroys thoughts like no other. It deprives life of all peace and sensibility. Nothing gives me so clear a grasp of the stupidity and thoughtlessness of mankind as the tolerance of the cracking of whips. This sudden, sharp crack which paralyzes the brain, destroys all meditation, and murders thought, must cause pain to anyone who has anything like an idea in his head. It truly is remarkable how Schopenhauer manages to write almost 1,000 words just on the irritation he feels when, from his apartment in Frankfurt, he hears the cracking of the whip as a postman passes by. Hammering, the barking of dogs, and the screaming of children are abominable, but it is only the cracking of a whip that is the true murderer of thought. Its object is to destroy every favorable moment that one now and then may have for reflection. Luckily, the essay is not entirely about Schopenhauer's personal pet peeves. He makes true on his reputation of being the philosopher of animal rights when he deplores the whip not simply as an irritation, but as an example of unnecessary cruelty against animals. If there were no other means of urging on an animal than by making this most disgraceful of all noises, one would forgive its existence. But it is quite the contrary. This cursed cracking of whips is not only unnecessary, but even useless. The effect that it is intended to have on the horse mentally becomes quite blunted and ineffective, since the constant abuse of it has accustomed the horse to the crack. He does not quicken his pace for it. The slightest touch with the whip would be more effective. Allowing, however, that it were absolutely necessary to remind the horse of the presence of the whip by continually cracking it, a crack that made 1/100th part of the noise would be sufficient. 7 years after the publication of this essay, and 2 years before Schopenhauer's death, in 1858 the Munich Society for the Protection of Animals officially outlawed the superfluous whipping of animals in Nuremberg. In this way, this essay of a grumpy old man, upset at the noise in the big city, was at least in part responsible for the better treatment of animals in 19th century Europe. Ironically, it was essays like this, and not his major philosophical work, that would grant Schopenhauer the fame and recognition he so desired. These essays would in turn spark interest in Schopenhauer's main work, The World as Will and Representation, and 150 years later, in the 21st century, Schopenhauer would be regarded as one of the first major philosophers in the modern Western tradition to champion a nicer treatment of animals. Not bad for a grumpy old man. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have become curious about this essay and you want to read it yourself, you can download a free PDF copy from the link in the description. It's only about 3 pages long. Visit the link in the description to download. We have also done a major 3-part series on Schopenhauer's main philosophical work, The World as Will and Representation. There is a link in the description to this series of videos if you are interested. Thank you for watching, and if you want to help out the channel, please like and subscribe. See you in the next one.